Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And pleasure to welcome all of my listeners and all of my watchers on all of our various platforms, whether it's TorahAnytime.com or on YouTube or on iTunes or on Podcast Land, Podcaster Us, my big book of podcast. I don't really know where anybody listens to this. Of course, my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com. So wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, it's a pleasure to be able to welcome you. And we got some business to take care of first. And I'll start with a little bit of history. There was a comedy team known as the Marx Brothers. The Nebuch were Yidden who left the way. When they were in vaudeville, there were 5 of them. When they went into the films, there were only 4 of them: Groucho, Chico, Harpo, and Zeppo. Zeppo was the straight man. And Chico played this fellow who was he played that he was an Italian, and he was constantly mangling English. So there was this scene where Groucho was trying to give Chico directions. So he says, you keep walking until you come to a viaduct. And he goes, okay, viaduct. He says, I don't know, I'm a stranger here myself. You keep walking till you come to a viaduct. He says, okay, viaduct, why not a chicken? So he says, because it's deep water, that's why not a chicken. You know, if you had a horse and you wanted to ford over, you wouldn't be able to because the water is too deep. He says, if you got a ford, why are you going on a horse? He says, you know what? Just forget everything. They're building a bridge there in the morning. Now, I say this by way of introduction because of an email that I received from one of our listeners or watchers who writes, we are very much not tech savvy, almost prehistoric, and we're not sure what a podcast is. Neither do our children or grandchildren. We're not sure what the purpose of this is. Is it a half-hour share on the Parsha, or is it meant to be something else? We listened last week and this week and enjoyed what was said on the Parsha, but don't get this whole podcast thing. Okay, so I wrote them back and explained to them, because I'm also not that tech-savvy, what a podcast is. You see, there's a term called broadcasting. Broadcasting is actually an agricultural term because when they would throw the seed, they would cast it as far as they could in a broadcast, so that when you throw something out there to reach the most amount of people, it was called a broadcast. And so a radio or television is a broadcast because it's sent out to everybody who has a receiver. In the 1990s, someone came up with the idea of recording something and putting it up on the internet, either for people to listen to as it was live or to download later and listen to. Since the device of choice was an iPod, so it became known instead of a broadcast as a podcast, which is essentially just a recording that you could download later and listen to. And the person wrote me back with this explanation and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what a podcast is. So just forget everything. They're building a bridge there in the morning, okay? This is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show, which is a half-hour pre-recorded share on the Parsha. It is not a podcast. Just forget about that. Even though we're starting off by saying this is podcast episode 4, it's not. This is just a half-hour share related to the Parsha, okay? I'm keeping this as simple as possible. Now, the title that we've been working with so far is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. I came up with that on my own, and I offered it up to the listeners and watchers to suggest whatever title they like. At least one person said, I like that show. I like that title, the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. I think it says all that there is. But I have compiled a list of the various topics that have been sent to me. I'll read them through here so that you can decide if you like any of these better. Orlofsky, I guess like or HaTorah or so Orlofsky, or a variation or Orlofsky. Yeah, I guess either or. Yeah. Rabbi Orlofsky's Divine Comedy, a takeoff on classic work, of course, Divine Comedy by Dante. The Real Deal with Rabbi Orlofsky, live from Jerusalem. It's Thursday night. The problem is that we're going to try to put this on earlier in the week. People say, probably you get more people to listen if they see it's about the parsha, if it's early in the week. So it'll have to be like live from Jerusalem. It's Monday night. And I don't know if that has the same ring to it. Parsha Pod, Rabbi Orlofsky live. Problem with that is that I'm not, because it's pre-recorded. A number of people suggested that we should do this live so that people could watch it live and ask questions. And, listen, we've done 4 of these. I'm open to try to do new venues and things. We'll see what happens. Yeah. An Orlofsky cast. Now, these have a certain alliteration to it. Palpable Parsha, Parsha Palpability. Transparent Parsha, Parsha Transparency. I don't know if you noticed the reversal of terms there. Yeah. Clearing up the Parsha, Parsha Clarity. Variation on a theme. Dave's Raves, Dave's Rants. I have to tell you the truth, raving and ranting, I hope that I don't do that. I try not to. But, I guess a rave and a rant may mean something different in the modern vernacular. Affordable therapy. I happen to like that one because I really feel that this is, for me personally, I can't afford therapy, so I'm just working out my various issues in public. Epista what? There's an area of philosophy called epistemology, and epista what I think really captures that. Yeah. Torah, Avoda, and me. Okay. Orlofsky orates. Rav Orlofsky opens the Torah. Rabbi O opens the Torah. Rav Orlofsky opens our eyes. Orlofsky or Voss? Anyway, we're sending it out there. I'm always happy to hear your comments, your observations. I really have tried to answer everyone who has written me. And needless to say, the many, many comments and emails that I've gotten, it's really taking on a full-time job just answering these, but I'm really doing a yeoman's effort. And that more or less brings us to where we are. So since this is supposed to be about the Parsha, I mean, I spent a little time doing some business, but since this is supposed to be about the Parsha, I think we should start talking about the Parsha. Now, I look at the Parsha and I see different ideas. And this week, Chai Sarah. And there's a lot of ideas that I could choose from. And the one that I want to speak about is, for me, personally poignant. Because this Shabbos, I'm going to be in Houston, Texas. And it's going to be at the Young Israel of Houston. It's going to be very exciting for me. But I'm not going to be in Eretz Yisroel. And this August 27th, me and my wife celebrated 30 years since we moved to Eretz Yisroel. We're living here 30 years. We came originally for 3, and so far we just haven't had the strength to pack up, so we're still here. It's a long time to pack. But in any event, so we're here 30 years, and one of the ways I'm able to stay in Eretz Yisroel is by going to America, because we have everything in Eretz Yisroel except for a way of making a living for American rabbis, of which we have many. It is one of our greatest commodities. There are more American rabbis in Israel than there are salt in the Dead Sea. Yeah, we have so many of them, and there's only so many positions. So I'm lucky in that there are people in America who still want to hear me. And so I, pack up my satchel and mosey on down, and I travel across the length and breadth of America and, sometimes Europe. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I have had the schus for the past 8 years to travel with Nesivos Tours to exotic locations throughout Europe with groups of people, and it's friendships that I have maintained for years and years. A tremendous, tremendous chus to be able to have that opportunity. And this year, anyone who's interested in going to Eastern Europe, I'm not going to Eastern Europe. I'm a Kohen. I find it halachically problematic for me to go there. But if you're interested, they run such a quality event, and everybody has always raved and ranted about it. So I guess this is one of those Dave's raves and Dave's rants. So if you want to go check out Nesivos Tours, that's coming up. But, I leave Eretz Yisroel. And it's poignant. I was just telling somebody the story today, actually, as I was driving them back. We passed Ammunition Hill. And I said the first time I was in Ammunition Hill was January 1969. A year and a half after the Six-Day War. My parents came 6 months after the Six-Day War, and a year later, they brought the 3 youngest children. And I'll never forget it. It was not a religious tour. But I'll never forget, the bus was snaking along Bab El Wad. Today you have the Jerusalem Highway. Kfish Echad. You can't even compare it. This was a 2-lane, winding highway through the mountains. And as we approached Jerusalem, the bus stopped. And the tour guide said, Jews do not ride into Jerusalem. They walk. We all got off the bus and walked into Jerusalem. And we come to that little, they used to have the flower arrangement that said, Bruchim Habayim LiYerushalayim. I saw that, 1969, almost 50 years ago. And every time I come back to Eretz Yisroel and I make that ride up to Yerushalayim, I have that same thrill. I have the schus to be able to be in Yerushalayim. Now, this obviously ties into this week's parasha because when Sarah dies, now Avram has to buy a kever, and he buys Maris Machpelah and a Chevron, and he pays good money for it, much more than it was worth. He asks an outrageous amount of money, and Avram says yes. Yeah. There's a story with the Satmarov, Rabbi Yoel, that somebody came to him and gave him a tale of woe, and he needs $5,000. So he goes in the back, and he comes back with 4,923. And he said, that's the best I can do. And the person said, thank you very much, and he leaves. So the Gabbai said, Rebbe, you could have given him the whole 5,000. He says, nobody asks for what they need. Whenever a person asks, they're always asking for less. I knew he probably needed more. And if he would have said, I need $5,000, and I would have said yes, he would have kicked himself home the whole way saying, I should have asked for more. When everyone said 400 shekel, he was sure Avram would say, what, are you out of your mind? It's a fraction of that amount. When he said yes, Ephron spent the rest of his life saying, I should have asked for more. So we bought Maris Machpelah, and in fact, there are many Yidden who this Shabbos make their way to the Jewish community of Hebron in order to be able to be in for Parshas Chayesar. It's interesting because we just had Rachel Imenu's Yortzeit, which we know traditionally the date of it. But there is no source for it. Apparently, there's no source for it. People take computers And they check to see Rachel Imenu's Yortzeit, that it doesn't show up in any midrashim, any place. So someone said to Rav Chaim Kanievsky, is there any makor? He says, of course, it's a medrash. He says, what do you mean? We checked all of them. And he flips open the medrash, and it says the day that every one of the Shvatim were born. He says, look when Binyamin was born. That's the same day that Rachel died. That's always the problem with a computer, is that a computer is only going to be as good as the question that you ask it. Lahavdil, last week's parsha, we saw that was the same thing that was true of the Urim V'Tumim. When they had the whole Ma'isa of Pilegesh Begiva, so they asked the Urim V'Tumim, who should lead the battle? Who should go out first? So the Urim V'Tumim said, Yehuda Baruch. And they suffered a terrible loss, tens of thousands of casualties. And they came back and they realized they asked the wrong question. Not who should go out first, should we go out to battle? So they said, can we go out to battle against Binyamin? And the Urim V'Tumim said, yes. And they suffered another loss, tens of thousands of people. And they realized they still asked the wrong question. Not can we go out to battle, should we go out to battle against our brother Binyamin? Now we make assumptions. We make assumptions. There's this terrible question. Terrible question. I've been asked it. I've been working in Kiryv for many years. You get this, unfortunately, this question from people. Yeah. If I'm going to be nichshol in a Maisa Znus, is it better with a Jew or with a Goy? I don't know if you ever heard this question. People ask this question. I said, I don't know. I don't know how to answer those kind of questions. I don't know the best way to tell you to do an Aveira. I don't know. I could tell you the best way to do a mitzvah. Now, the truth of the matter is that the Chazal will deal with that. Right? Rav Kuperman from Michallah used to say, the difference between halacha and hashkafa is that halacha will tell you what to do in every situation. Hashkafa tells you which situations to be in. So if you find yourself, but you're going to ask me the best way to do an Aveira, I don't answer those kind of questions. Yeah. The story of Rabbi Yitzchak Ochanan, where there was this maskil, and somebody was saying to him, he says, yeah, but you got to admit, he does this good, he does that good, no? So Rabbi Yitzchak Ochanan says, you know what that's like? There was this girl who had to eat treif. The doctor said she had to eat pig. Had to eat chazer. She says, okay, if I have to eat it, I want to check it. So the Rav says, it doesn't make a difference. He goes, I don't care. If it's not checked, I'm not going to eat it. That's it. I'd rather die. So he goes to the sheikh. He says, listen, I got to ask a special favor. I need you to shech the pig. He says, I'm not going to shech the pig. He says, get another knife. Do whatever. I got a crazy girl here. What am I going to do? So the shochet shechs the pig. She says, no, you got to check the lungs. It should be glot. You understand? So he checks the lungs, and taka, there's a shayla. There's a shayla and a sircha. So he brings it to the Rav, and the Rav says, what do you want me to say? It's kosher? It's a pig. That's what Yitzchak Ochanan says. What do you want me to say, So when you ask a question, you got to ask the question the right way. But in any event, so it was what we hold to be Rachel Imenu's Yortzeit. And there's this tremendous attendance during that time at Kever Rachel. And it's interesting. I don't go to Kfarim. I'm a Kohen. There are some people who maintain Tzadikim aren't Matame, and they rely on that, but that's not my psak. But we went to pay a shiva kol in Efrat. Dr. Matar, who's been our pediatrician for 30 years. And we were coming back from Efrat. And my wife says, I never get a chance to go to Kever Rachel. I said, let's go. And let's go. When the Mesilas Yesharim says in Zrizis, says, Hatcholos HaMitzvah, the beginning of Zrizis means when the opportunity comes your way, or when the time comes the way, or when the machshava occurs to you. Because there's three different types of opportunities to do a mitzvah. Mitzvah Seder Shazman Grama. You can't do the Seder before Pesach night. You just can't. You can't make Kiddush before the Zman, whatever the Zman is. You can't say Kriya Shema before the Zman. It doesn't mean anything. You have to wait for the time. Sometimes you have to wait for the opportunity. You want to do a chesed. Help an old lady across the street. It helps if she wants to go. Okay, so you decide to do a mitzvah. I took the old lady, she didn't want to go, but I got the mitzvah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to wait for the opportunity to present itself. You know? That moment of tension in the life of every Jew. Yeah, to make the bracha on a rainbow. Because there's this tension. When you see a rainbow, you have to make a bracha on it. But it says also l'stakel. So what does that mean? You got to look, but don't look too much. Just look enough to be able to get it. It's supposed to staring at it. But yeah, if there's no rainbow, you can't make the bracha. You know, it's a machlekes, the bracha on Yom HaGadol. Whether you make it on the Mediterranean or on the Atlantic. So when I was on my Nesivos tours, we went to southern Spain and went to Gibraltar. So there's the point with the Mediterranean and in Gibraltar, where the Mediterranean and the Atlantic meet. And there's a chance to make the mitzvah of making the bracha on Yom HaGadol according to everybody. But you have to wait for the opportunity. Well, the third one is when you think of it. Yeah, an idea occurs to you. As soon as the idea occurs to you, you should act on it, because by waiting, he says, Ein sakana kesakanasai. There's no danger as great as that. Why? Because as soon as you have the idea to do something good, you're a better person just from the idea. Now your Yetzer Hara is bigger, and there's more obstacles that are going to pop up in your path. So you should do it right away. So as we were driving back, my wife said to me, I haven't been to Kever Rachel in a long time. I said, let's go right now. Made the turnoff. Went to Kever Rachel. So Kever Rachel, Maras Machpelah. I have people come from Chutz La'aretz, come to Eretz Yisroel. And there are people come at the beginning. They want to do touristy things, go to the Dead Sea and float, with a newspaper, get that picture. And, people want to go certain places, take certain pictures, see certain things. People have been here for a while and they come back. I say to them, so what do you want to do with your trip? They go, just want to daven. I want to go every day to the Kaisel. I want to go to Kever Rachel. I want to go to Maras Machpelah. I want to go to Kivrei Tzadikim. We have that over here. We have certain tours, day tours, that just go from Kever to Kever to Kever to Kever. It's an opportunity to be able to daven. There's something about being in Eretz Yisroel. There's a Kedusha. Right? Mishnah and Kalim. Asar Kedushas. There are 10 levels of Kedusha. The first is called Eretz Yisroel. The second are cities that have been walled since the time of Yeshua. The third one is Yerushalayim, and then the Har Bayis, and it keeps growing from there. But the first one is Eretz Yisroel. That's Kadosh. When you're outside of Eretz Yisroel, it's a different level. Yeah. Pashas Vayetze, we know that Yaakov Avinu marries two sisters. But it says the Avos kept all the Torah. The Ramban says, only in Eretz Yisroel. And the Ramban says an amazing thing. You know why Hashem commanded us to keep the Torah outside of Eretz Yisroel? So we'll remember what to do when we come back to Eretz Yisroel. But Torah is meant to take effect be'emes in Eretz Yisroel. That's the koyach of it. And so he won't let Yitzchak leave. Yaakov leaves. Unfortunately, when he comes back, then he has to leave again and die in Gullus. But he makes sure that his Atzomas come back. He wants to make sure that he gets buried in Eretz Yisroel. At least in death, to come back to Eretz Yisroel. There's a power. So it was interesting. On one of the tours that we did, so a group was there. So someone put up and said, it's our anniversary. Where's a nice place to go? I said, Eretz Yisroel. What can I tell you? I like it here. I've been here for 30 years. Every Daled Amos that you walk in Eretz Yisroel, you get a mitzvah. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, you're a veris, a mechaper. Kadosh Baruch Hu forgives your sins. There is a koyach to being in Eretz Yisrael. That doesn't mean it's not difficult. Doesn't mean it's not difficult. But because it's difficult doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So I've told this story other times, I'm sure. But, if people come to Eretz Yisrael and they go, it's so hot here. I said, yes, it is. We're in the desert. It's hot. And it's so dusty. Why is it so dusty? I said, I'm sorry, the country was abandoned for 2,000 years and the girl only comes in twice a week, so she hasn't gotten to everything yet, Then she says, so why do you live here? Why do you live here? That's the $1 million question. Why do you live here? Because the greatest decisions in life are not necessarily based on what's easy. Yeah. That's a commandment, the 11th commandment. Take it easy. Chill. Relax. Yeah. Oh, life goes fast. Nobody believes it. Nobody believes it. But as you start to get older, and I give a daf yomi in the morning, and the last 5 minutes where you were doing Mesilas Yesharim, we finished it. Now he's starting to do Shari Tshuva. And he says, listen, you should do Tshuva when you're young, but if not, at least when you get old. Because you realize your body's closing down. You're at the end of the show. This is the point when the wife tells the husband, go get the car. We're closing down. Your body's closing down. The list of foods you can't eat grow. Or as more than one person has said, if I wake up in the morning and nothing hurts, I know I'm dead. Jew gets up with a krech. I don't know. Something's pulling over me. I don't know. So at least do tshuva then. Life goes fast. The things that we think are so important. When we look back, how many times do you ever hear somebody at some point in their life say, I wish I could live my life over again? Because I'd live it differently. So why didn't you live it that way the first time? I didn't realize. I wasn't thinking. And that's what happens. We don't think. We don't realize where we're going. Because if we did, we would take the best option available. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that everyone should live in Eretz Yisroel. Trust me, there's no parking. Yeah, I don't need you. What do I mean? I mean that I have chaverim who Reb Moshe Shapiro Zatzal. I don't have the chutzpah to call him my Rebbe, but Reb Moshe Shapiro told them, go to Chutz La'aretz. What you could do there. He sent Rabbi Tatz back to Chutz La'aretz. Sent Rabbi Becher to Chutz La'aretz. What you could do there. So, okay, I'm not saying that everybody's place is to be in Eretz Yisroel. But Libi b'Mizrach, I should want to be in Eretz Yisroel. When Avram had to leave, that was one of his nisyonos. He came to Eretz Yisroel and then he had to leave. Yaakov Avinu had to run away, go to Chutz La'aretz. And what happens? He has to switch malachim because these malachim aren't going with you out to Chutz La'aretz. When we have an opportunity, when we have a chance to come to Eretz Yisroel, and I'm not making cheshbonos for anybody. I'm just saying that when we look around and say, what are our options? We have a chance to come to Eretz Yisroel. It's not like when I came here in 1969. It's not even when I came here for camp in 1973, or when I came to learn here the first time in 1975. It was much harder. They had no napkins. They had wax paper napkins. You understand the problem with wiping your hands on a piece of wax paper? The good news is you just rinse them off and you use them again, But, gosh, whatever soda they had came in these big, heavy, returnable glass bottles. There was no diet soda, They had diet soda. It was called seltzer. But, there was no ice, Somebody said to me once, you know why there's no ice? Because only one person has the recipe and they're in Miluim. It's not like that today. Today, it's such a different world, But I should think, Libi B'Mizrach, it's Meres Machpelah, it's Kever Rachel. It's an opportunity for me to be able to have that Kedusha, the first of the Kedushas of being in Eretz Yisroel. And if we come to Yerushalayim, we've already moved up a step. And we go daven by the Kaisel, What an opportunity. What an opportunity it is. So, a little something to think about this week. And I want to thank everyone for listening. And if you want to know where to find more about this show and links, RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast. My event schedule is at RabbiOrlofsky.com/events. And that's an opportunity if you want to see where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in America starting this Shabbos. And if you want to contact me, you can go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/contact. Always happy to hear from everybody. And, what can I tell you? We'll be in touch. We'll continue this wonderful experiment. For those of you who are not tech savvy, this is not a podcast. This is just a pre-recorded Parsha Shir. For the rest of you, thank you for joining me for the Rabbi Orlofsky podcast. And I have to say one last thing. Go out and vote. Those of you in America, here in Eretz Yisroel, we voted, Baruch Hashem. I don't know the results are, but we went out to vote. In America, this is such a crucial time. What can be accomplished with a vote, what you can do. So don't miss that opportunity.